Good evening, my name's Chris and welcome back to Global Strategy and Leadership Webinar 7, week 7. So not that long to go. We are past the halfway mark. Where are we up to? So we were a little bit into module 5 in the last webinar. So we started talking about visions and missions and values, and talked about the fact that no, you can get them mixed up, and most companies, won't write their mission statement, say, the way that CPA has described it in the study guide. But doesn't matter. You've got to understand the study guide material, so you need to work off their definitions, I guess, of a vision statement versus a mission statement. So that's a classic one. People get a bit worried about. One, think about the future state. The other one, think about why does the company exist? What's its purpose? Why are they there? As opposed to what that key future state goal is. Values and goals is a bit clearer. So we're still in module 5. I think we tried to clear up the sometimes confusion that can be there over levers versus drivers. So I hope you're okay with that. I'm still of the belief that you don't necessarily pull on a lever. Well, on a operational lever, I find that a bit hard. You don't pull on cost or revenue, it's an outcome. But I guess you do pull in a sense, and the organizational ones. Structure, perhaps the word pull's not the right one. The structure lever, do I have the right structure to implement the strategic option that we're considering? All right, so we're considering going overseas and we want to do wholly owned. Well, am I now decentralizing my structure? Which is leading into this thing in module 6. If I'm decentralized, how decision rights work, who's going to head up that office? Can I pull on what my capabilities I've got now, or am I actually really short and I have to get new capabilities? Just briefly on the mid-semester test, top score, 14 out of 15. So congratulations to one person who achieved that. Now, name them, but really well done. You completed it, but you didn't review your incorrect answers. Yes, you can. You can go to the results tab. Cool, you can see them. So, well done. Average score 8.8. And then lots of people would ask me, as per every semester, what minimum did I need to feel on track? And I came up with 10 out of 15. All right. 2/3. There's no right answer for this. If you got less, don't panic. If you got 4, you need to really consider where you're at, and you honestly try the test. Some people I know, I see the odd score of 1 and 2, which is just silly. So they've just gone click, and then hit submit to try and get the rest of the answers, which sometimes works and sometimes the system doesn't give it to you. Then yeah, you haven't achieved anything. It's a waste. But yeah, if you were 5 or 6 or 7, look, it's not brilliant. You need to at least understand where you were going wrong, what the gaps are. If you're that low, then there's definitely some gaps in your knowledge and materials, and you're going to need to try and close them, because you can't say, oh, I'll just write a really good index and I'll make it. It's just not going to work that way. You won't have the time in the exam. 74% of students completed it, which was fantastic, because that was the highest out of any of our subjects. So very happy about that. I love it that I tend to get one of the highest engagements in emails and practice exams and mid-semester tests over my colleagues. It makes me feel good. It's also weird though, 26% didn't do it, and I really don't understand you. I'm guessing the you is people I might be talking to on this recording, not the live, because yeah, you guys tend to do it. People have their reasons, but man, it's just an opportunity to test where you're at. I would always take the opportunity. Okay, module 5. So yeah, we looked at that first objective a bit, and we looked at 2 and 3 a bit, with a focus from me for trying to explain the sometimes level of confusion that's there. It's not there for everybody. It has been there for me for a bit. Let's just keep the interaction going. Which of the following statements is correct? cannot remember whether we did this previous week or not. Do it anyway. Go for it. Another 10 seconds. Cool. Thank you very much. Option C. Option C is the popular one. Excellent. So values reinforced by the vision of the organization. They're reinforced by behaviors of employees, behaviors and norms, if you think about it that way. And values and those behaviors or values and norms, that's what builds into organizational culture. It's the vision that provides the future states, we know, not the mission, the way it's defined in the study guide. And organization mission is realized through the development of the vision. In some ways, you could argue, yes, it is, but it's the wrong way around in terms of the way the study guide presents it. So well done for the fair majority of you picking the option C. And so, yeah, so we mentioned at the start of 5 that you're at this stage now, and it's a really important stage. You've done all this analysis. You've now got to make decisions, and you can make them broad categories like this. Is it open up a new market? Is it actually defend? And for a lot of industries, it is a reasonable strategy, a new strategy, that you're going to defend your market to the nth degree from competitors. You may not have the capital. The other markets that you want to enter may not be growing. Their pestle may not be favorable enough, or their 5 forces, to make it worthwhile at the moment. You know, you might have had great opportunities to go to the Brazilian market before the whole economy of Brazil tanked, and it absolutely tanked. Right? There's companies like one of Jerry Harvey's classics. You know, when Harvey Norman went to Ireland, they didn't look at pestle clearly enough. Yes, they got a bit bitten that it was a bigger impact than most people thought, but there were already heaps and heaps of signs at that time. It was a strategic mistake, as well as getting, I guess, unlucky in how bad things got in Ireland. And it really, really hurt them. I think 100 million plus down the drain. You can try to diversify. You're trying to go to new markets, new products. Are you trying to do under and soft product development, current market, but with a new product? Are you trying to get more penetration, which is more about the consolidation of your position? All right. So this is the way, the layman's terms, of what you're trying to think about. Just one in the chat box. True or false? The operational drivers and the organizational and people drivers from Figure 2.2 framework of strategy analysis are translated into 2 levers that need to be pulled, 2 categories of levers that need to be pulled. Yeah, cool. No, that's true. All right. I'm just trying to. There's so many different ways you could write it, but that's the idea. They're trying to translate that Figure 2.2 to 5.5 to say, yeah, you have these drivers, and we're going to break them into these levers to pull. As I said earlier, I guess one of my issues where I get confused is I don't see how I'm pulling on revenue. I kind of say you're pulling on growth, pulling the idea of wanting to grow, but I am pulling on structure, I am pulling on capabilities. It works a bit better on that side in terms of the levers, but that's how it's trying to line up. What is forever? What are forever and ever and ever? Yeah. They are indeed. And so I know it was a bit of a read. I don't think I wanted you to read the whole thing. I can't remember if I gave you sections of this one or not. Uh, but yeah, it's an interesting case because massive company and they went through a significant change and had to really, this is a point, the module 5 point for them in both terms of making a decision and also the risk associated with it. So just really, really quickly, why do you think they had such competitive advantage up until the early 1990s? Thank you, Glenn. Diana. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And they're exploiting which bit? We don't have an industry value chain, but they had a monopoly because they controlled. Yes, thank you, Glenn. Yeah, they controlled supply, didn't they? They pretty much ruled the diamond market. 80% of the total world supply, right? So they controlled supply. They had I can't remember the places in London, their big warehouse, and they basically released diamonds when they wanted to set the price to whatever the hell they wanted because they just controlled so much. They were supposedly utterly ruthless in terms of the way they dealt with people, and yeah, they stockpiled. People that pissed them off were swiftly dealt with in a financial sense. They just, would do things like refuse to supply. Particular buyer they liked. If other people were trying to enter the market with their own diamond mines, of course, what you do in commodity markets like this is you boost supply, pushing the prices down, crushing the opposition. In the same way, for instance, what BHP and Rio did. So the prices for iron ore dropped. They did not drop their production. Why would they not do it? Because they made a forecast. The price is going to drop. We can wear this. Twiggy Forrest and Fortescue got very, very close to being absolutely wiped out. Right? They've done okay. If the price had gone further, he was right on the line where he was going to start to make massive losses and not have the cash reserves to deal with it. Whereas the big companies, they were like, we don't care. This actually, it's bad for the company. There was a loss for BHP. In the longer term, they also go, well, this is going to crush a number of mining companies. It's going to send them under because they cannot run a low-cost strategy like we can. So pestle impacts. So what's this one? Yep. So a bit of a P impact. So the Soviet Union goes under, the wall comes down, but what actually happens is they didn't do a great job perhaps of thinking about how they would gently open up markets, and so things, because in communist and capitalist societies there still is certain levels of corruption, and diamonds just started flooding out, I think both legally and illegally, out of the Russian market. So the whole Soviet market, I think a lot of them are coming from Russia. I'm not sure whether it's Siberia way or whatnot. And so they just started to flood the market. So that affected De Beers. That was supply they couldn't stop. They didn't control it. What was this one? P and an L. I don't remember the Canada thing. No. All right, my picture's not very good. Antitrust. Yes. Yep, the Sherman antitrust. Thanks, Greg. So it's interesting, isn't it, about the states how this can happen? They can be freewheeling with lack of red tape, but if they do feel that companies have just gone far and beyond in terms of market monopoly power, abusing the American, I guess, trade system or their kind of competition and consumer laws, Trade Practices Acts, then they will come down hard. They do have the ability in the states to create some pretty tough rules and to inflict some very high penalties. So that was an issue for them. And look, the point of this pestle is simply for you to come to the realization, if you were reading a case really quickly, oh crap, they're getting hit from all sides. All right. What was the film these two guys were in? And special bonus point if you can name this actor. Everyone knows who the other one is. What's it related to? To social impact. Yes, thank you, Brendan. Blood diamonds. Exactly. And often, social impacts are slow, they have a minimal effect. I don't know how big this got, but it certainly, and wasn't just the film, it wasn't these two gentlemen, it was much more about just a change of people going, where are these coming from? They're coming from mines run by militias in different parts of Africa where a lot of people are getting killed. Yes, correct answer, knowledge equity webinars. I bet you looked it up though, rather than remembered that it is Jimon Honsu. Everyone knows Leonardo, and the blood diamond, yeah, started having an effect as well. So they're getting whacked. In Porter's five forces, what changed with the power level of supplies and the threat of substitutes? So where did extra supply come apart from Russia? Very close to home, 2 hours plus west of Melbourne. Yeah, good. All right, so you're able to pull information out. This is all I'm really testing. Can you pull information out? I hope you didn't spend an hour reading the case. That's not the point of the exercise. And the substitute, which already someone mentioned before, is not a diamond. You want to be a cheapie, it's synthetic. Everyone should go synthetic. I'm sure they cost heaps less. I'll try and wipe that cost out of my mind. All right, well done. So you can pull out pestle. You can recognize that a company that was very powerful got cornered a little bit, got pressured from things that are out of its control. De Beers didn't cause the Soviet Union to collapse, right? And De Beers were, I guess, unable to stop. No doubt they tried to with Argyle diamonds, but they're also creating a different diamond as well. They had an advantage of, well, we're competing, but we've also got this thing called a pink diamond. All right, synthetic are real diamonds, same DNA. I'm not sure DNA is what they have, but the same carbon structure. Wow. Okay. Well, outside my area of expertise. So they had to change their strategy. They had two options: cease become a commodity trader and become a differentiated seller. Get into set up your own synthetic diamond division and use your power in economies of scale and dominant distribution to take significant market share. Yeah. So which one did they do? Yeah. Why wouldn't you do? Why wouldn't you do the second option? If you're running De Beers, why do you think they didn't go down that path? Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, I think some of it was related to marketing. So you legitimize the substitute. You say you cannibalize yourself. You say, okay, I got this, but now we're producing these. Well, hang on, I'm the same company, so I'm saying, well, these are just as good as these. Dangerous. Yeah. They have all the real diamonds. Yeah, but they were losing. They weren't. This 80% was starting to steadily go down. Quality and reputation. Yeah, they'd have to set something up. So capabilities. Good. All right, you're thinking about it. It's not consistent with the brand. I like that part because marketing hat. That's definitely there. But there's also this thing about okay, we're going to have to get the equipment. Sure, they have heaps of money, but they still have to have the capabilities to build it. But I think fundamentally, I would think if you're in the board, there would have been some real issues if it was put up as a strategic option, which I'm sure it was at some stage. Some real issues in are we actually going against the DNA of our brand? What do beers stand for? We've been in business for 100+ years. We buy from the mines raw diamonds. They don't cut most of them. They weren't cutting them then, and we sell them to the jeweler houses in New York and whatnot by color and carat and quality, but not cut. And that's what we do, and we do it very, very well. So yeah, I think that's why they. But there's risk in doing either option. So they decided they could only handle 60% of the market of uncut diamonds. If you could add value to those diamonds by increasing the perceived value of them in consumers' eyes. So they decided to differentiate. All right. Some of the things they had were hearts on fire. But the important thing to understand is they accepted a reduction in control of the raw diamond supply, market supply, and they started to go, all right, and don't take my word exactly, but I think there was probably partnerships, strategic alliances going on with people that were cutting diamonds. I didn't think they were cutting much before this time, before the 90s. Then they were cutting some. I think there were partnerships with other people. So we go back to that module 4. How do I get into this new market? This is not a new geographic market, but it's a new customer market for De Beers. They're like, no, we're going to go more direct to the end consumer. So how are we going to do that? Do we have the capabilities? No. For doing amazing diamond cutting? Probably not. I don't know how much of it's still done by hand versus automation. But you could imagine that you would look for other people as well to partner with to get this done. But the point is they realized that they had to attempt to differentiate. What they did own, which is good, was they had, by doing this, they could exploit the customers. And they've been doing this for a time. This has gone back to Marilyn Monroe, and diamonds are a girl's best friend. I mean, diamonds, I don't know if I said it before, they're not even really that rare. They're not. If you want to, those of you who are thinking about long-term partnership or marriage and you want to get the ultimate thing and outdo your friends, then get your partner a ruby. Because as far as my jeweler told me a number of years ago when I went to get a diamond, they are pretty much gone. Right? They are pretty much mined, all of them out of West Africa. It is near impossible to get a ruby on your hand. And so lots of fake ones, obviously. They're actually rare. Diamonds weren't, they were just controlled by supply. But De Beers did an amazing job of doing their customer segmentation, understanding how to create, excuse me, I thought that was off, how to create a market and a perceived value for this product. All right, they did have certainly the raw diamond channel, but they were exploiting this. The product is the product, to be honest. That's why this one's in red, and they were trying to drive themselves differentiation and competitive advantage. I think they probably claimed at some stage they were conflict-free. Yes, they tried to address most of those pestle concerns. And try to overcome a lifetime of conditioning from market. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Try and grow a ruby market. Well, it's bugger all point, I suppose, when there's literally no supply available, from what I was told. I don't know much about them, but they are seriously rare. A real one of them costs a lot more than any fancy diamond. But you're right. But look, Greg's right. There's no reason for Mr. Packer and others to pay $500,000 for a diamond ring for a out-of-date singer, other than very clever branding and control to some extent of supply. So what operational levers are we going to pull or are affected by this? All right, so we've got a link. We have a link to marketing and brand lever, which we need to use to pull on that to get this this unique positioning and this development of our customer base, this value proposition, to extend production and revenue. We're pulling on the lever also of trying to use competitive advantage to grow revenue. And that's where I see it as more of an outcome. But point aside, what about organizational and people levers? Now we're going outside the case here. It's not an exam type question. We don't have enough information. But do they have the right structure in the business to do it? They are a raw diamond commodity trading company. They are becoming a differentiated, close to end product company as well as still doing the trading. Do they have the capabilities? Does it align with their value and vision? That's really important. You link it back to Go Gear. Does it align with the value and the vision? The goals specific goals we know very, very aggressive with Tony's. The values of the company, it's not really about trying to suddenly break out across the whole world. Now you do this, all right? You get to this stage, you kind of understand which levers you might be pulling on. You're selecting some sort of an option. You decide to differentiators to beers. Then you've got to try and evaluate. How do you do evaluation? There's a few things in the study guide. One of them is the value effort assessment. I'm not a fan, but I accept that it could be examinable. Is examinable. I'm not a fan because it's just too damn basic. Like, you know, there's simple matrices and a simple matrix, and then there's a simple one, and just saying we're going to do it because it's low-hanging fruit or it's a dead duck. It's just very arbitrary, broad axes. That's my issue. But where does GoGear's expansion strategy go? Where do you guys think it would go? Which quadrant? Yeah, I like that one. We'd have to agree, wouldn't we, that it is effort is significant, and we have to hope, and they'd be hoping, that the value is going to be significant, certainly with the goals that they've set. What about the other one? Escape routes, lift-off strategy. Low-hanging fruit. Yeah. Oh, Ravi says a dead duck. I haven't done a dead duck. Lots of effort, nothing to gain. Well, I guess you're saying that it's never going to deliver, and so it's an interesting one. Escape route's a bit harder, isn't it? Where you're going to stick it. I'd probably go with low-hanging fruit because other companies have online platforms. They are doing quite well. These guys they've failed to put the effort in. If we go back to the product development success factors, we'd have to challenge their management support, wouldn't we? It's in a couple of quotes. So it's a classic question to be able to ask, exam type question, because it's sort of given to you. These guys were not committed to it. They're kind of getting committed to online 2.0, which they're going to attempt now, aren't they? But they're just not. They were not committed to it in the past. Yeah, look, it is subjective. It's not, in a way. You're dead right. It's not a proven. I'd go low-hanging fruit. If we're assessing it, we should be able to say, we've had to go at this before. We need to get it right this time. We're not building new stores. We're not trying to set up a whole new distribution center or whatever. And we are hoping to gain a fair bit of value from it. All right, good. Weighted criteria. So tell me now, you can only give me one of these things. You're buying a new car and you have got a choice of, remember this, write it down, performance, engine performance, look, fuel efficiency, noise, luggage room. Engine performance, how fast it goes, it takes off, the look of the car, how cool it is, fuel efficiency, how noisy it is, luggage space. So which one? What's your number one that you're going to take notice of? Oh, you are such all accountants. What? Oh, that is hysterical. How many have you got? Have you got children? No, I wasn't saying it was the first one. Right, me, gone. Oh, lucky you. Right, so you've all got children, and you're talking about fuel efficiency. What about room? What about when you got to go camping? What about you got sports gear in the back? and the dog and everything else. Look is second. Wow. Looks are more important than the room. I think that's correct. Otherwise, why do they spend so much money designing these things? Okay, cool. Well, my point was meant to be that you'd all pick different criteria, but you all just went with fuel efficiency, so that failed. So yeah, how do you decide? And what you get with this is just trying to explain why it's so obvious that you would weight criteria. So you look at the car sales magazine or whatever it is, Drive magazine, they go the engine performance of the Volvo something or other. It's called the Volvo SV60, an updated version of what my colleague Courtney Klaus drives, which is the Volvo slightly dumpy. And engine performance is 3.5, road handling is 4, efficiency is 2, the look is 4.5, 1.5 for space, 3 for noise, rated by, John Smith in the car magazine. But it means nothing in one way, because what I was hoping you would all do is say different things that were most important to you. So look, you've all said, most of you have said this one. All right, great. But here's the rating for it. I've just written over there, but 2, okay? It only gets 2 out of 5 for efficiency. So if we then look at this one, which has got no luggage room, I reckon it doesn't go very fast, is possibly runs on burps and is very, very efficient. So all of you are going to have to buy this Toyota on the end. Bad luck. But do you get my point? So when you're deciding on a strategy, what do you care about? What does the organization care about in terms of criteria it picks? Why would it weight them? That's why weighting makes, using the car example, to make so much sense. It means different things for different people. If the look is really important, right, and that Volvo looks good, then you're going to look past the fact that efficiency was a 2 out of 5, right? Or that there's no space in this car. So that's why you think about the weighted criteria. Now, bringing it back to our markets, our decisions, size and value of the market, absolutely. Pestle, is there future growth, right? Profitability, 5 forces. What market share could we get? Then you got the classic, straightforward for you guys, WACC, IRR, okay? Do you do a project if it doesn't exceed your weighted average cost of capital? No, generally. Distribution access, I'll always bang on about that because from consumer products and my other startups, it's so important. Can you get your product to the customer? If you can't, it does not matter. If your product does the most amazing thing for them, if you can't get it to them, they can't buy it. The capacity to make it, capability. So there's all sorts of different things here. To Ravi's point, how do you rank them? You have to pick a rating. So you have to actually say, I want all of these to add up to a certain number, right? Doesn't even have to be 100. It can be any number. The fact is each one is going to be worth something different. So it's no different. You've got all these here, right? They're rated out of 5, but then you're going to give a weighting factor to each one, okay? Now, you're choosing this. In your head, you're going, well, I'm giving a weighting to efficiency. So that sucks. If I put up another one that said that the Mazda is got a 4 for efficiency, then you're naturally going to gravitate and look at that and take notice because you're weighting it in your head. If we're talking about a specific project, yeah, you've got to decide. There might be a mandatory weighting on IR and WACC. Most companies there is. But after that, what happens if 3 projects all exceed it, but there's not that much difference? They all meet those requirements. So then you've got to decide what's the next most important criteria. What's the one after that? So it's arbitrary. I know the study guide, there's some confusion sometimes with students about, well, they've got this example here and I don't get where they got the weighting from. They made it up. But they can't give you an exact answer. And you'll be in a project team one day looking at exactly this and having the team has to come to an agreement, and probably the senior execs have to sign off on it. This is the weighting criteria that we're going to use when they present it. And there needs to be agreement in the governance structure for strategy selection and implementation, because if there's not, you will have this disquiet where people go, well, no, I think the most important thing is actually about whether this fixes our distribution channel issue. And I don't know why we're doing it, because I wasn't part of, because people don't feel they were part of the agreement that distribution was given a weighting factor of 1.2, but WACC and market share potential gain was given a factor of 1.5. Right? And then you rate each one out of whatever score you want, 5, 10, 15, 20. Who's this guy? Doesn't really matter. He's Mr. Rummelt. When Blockbuster video stores went bust, they would continue to open new stores in a market where the trend for viewing videos online was growing. Which of the following of Rummels's criteria is most likely to be inconsistent with this strategy? Go for it. Quick and easy, 20 seconds. Come up, I got half of you answering. 5 seconds. Cool, thank you very much. External consistency. Now, why would you choose that? Because it's correct. Of course, we're talking about the future growth here, aren't we? Yeah? The future growth of the industry. We're talking about pestle. We're talking about a social factor in pestle changing, leading people to go, plus an introduction in 5 forces of a new entrant to the market. There's never just one thing, there's a combination of things that occur, plus a combination of leadership at Blockbuster that stuck their head in the proverbial sand and just went, nah, don't see it. Don't see video online being a trend, right? Didn't see, I mean, we have to go back actually, it's before Netflix didn't start as Netflix, it started as a subscriber, get your DVD in the mail. That's how it was. And a guy in WA, I think, did it here as well. Get your DVD in the mail, watch it, then mail it back, right? So they were actually just fighting that at the start. But as the tech development came on board, we were able to pack it smaller, larger and larger bits of data, faster and faster to make the buffering issues to go away. Then, of course, they would have to change, but they just didn't. So, evaluating options, external consistency should be pretty clear, but some pointers here. How does it fit with trends in the environment that are influencing growth, the pestle trends, right? What about the organization's competitive positioning, more of the 5 forces trends, the competitive environment? Is it consistent to do this? Because you've got to defend because of new entrants coming into the market with different types of tech, because there's substitutes that are starting to come in, and if you don't do something, those substitutes, your customers could leave, could switch and go, I'm fine with the substitute product. That's so important. Does it fit in with the key industry success factors, right? So you're picking something to do, but it actually, what you're going to build, an asset that you're going to purchase, doesn't really deliver against a key industry success factor that is part of the basis of competition is required for all companies they need to do this thing well in order to do fairly well in the industry, to be profitable. And it does happen. Sometimes people go down certain paths where on reflection, it's like, that actually, it was good in one way, but it wasn't actually linked to one of the key success factors that all of our competitors and us need to really focus on to stay alive in this market, right? Does it change the industry value chain? Are you taking up new segments? Are you pulling out of segments as part of this? Does it matter? Maybe not. It's something to consider. Internal consistency. How does it fit in terms of the corporate strategy? Are you about expansion? Are you about, and that's probably the other way is the easiest one, isn't it? Are you about growing your market share, your board's view, and consolidating, and yet you've got the strategic option on the table you want to choose, that it's about growing new markets as quickly as possible overseas. Does that line up with internal consistency? You can decide to change your corporate strategy, or if you've got that document sitting there, and you've got something that's very, very different, just like a gap analysis, you've got to see the inconsistency here. All right? If it changes the organization's value chain, and I know that was in both, and you'll see this in the prompt points in the study guide, you'll see some of them repeated, but that's okay. Does it change in a way that's going to affect how you operate in the value chain? All right. This one's interesting. I quite like this one. What will happen if you don't implement the strategy? How much of a threat could you be under if you were looking at your SWOT or something, or gap analysis or whatever it is? If you don't implement it, what's it going to mean for you? Do you have the capabilities, always very critical, to make this strategy work? Feasibility, a little bit more straightforward, but again, it's got some of the links. Feasibility, capabilities, do you have the capabilities here? Internal consistency, do you have the capabilities? They can kind of be in both. Feasibility does have a more straight line cost-benefit analysis. Does it stack up, right? Can you get the access to capital to do it? Easy to say, we're going to build this amazing manufacturing facility for the latest protein drink, Pod 2.0, but you don't have the money to build it. Not going to work, right? You're going to take on so much debt, which again, some companies do. They go, well, we'll leverage the hell out of ourselves, and we'll make it. And some do, and some just take on too much debt. Trying to think of an example. Company you Courtney and I know well, Aesop, excellent, what do you call it, skincare products and whatnot, tried to expand too rapidly, right? What they wanted to do was great. They were growing in the Asian market, tried to go too fast, took on too much debt, got themselves into, at one stage, a significant financial issue. Can you implement within the time frame? So you're building the Dreamliner, which I'll talk about in CBI a bit. Can you actually do it? Strategic options, we're going to do the Dreamliner. They were billions over budget. They were something like 3-4 years late on it, right? That should have been picked up earlier on, that they were never going to hit those time frames because they have the pre-orders from customers, and customers will walk away. You're Boeing, you cannot risk not delivering when Airbus, you don't know exactly what they're up to, but they're going to be developing their own planes, and then your customers just walk away. Your customer won't pay a deposit and go, I need the damn plane. I'm out of here. I'm going to go buy the Airbus. Right? It's the worst case scenario. And this one's so super critical as well. All of this stuff, at the end of it all, are you going to get a competitive advantage? Because if you're not, it can still be worth doing. It can be a cost-saving type project. But if you're not going to get a competitive advantage, and even then you're trying to reduce your cost to remain competitive, is it really worth doing it? Will your customers value what you're trying to do? Right? Can they be easily copied? It's got those links to strategic capability. Does it give you something strategic? Will someone copy it straight away and you're going to spend a whole lot of money to immediately have massive IP leakage? All right? What do we got there? I hope there isn't too many MCQs or royalties. There's too much overlap. Yeah. Yes, there's overlap in those prompt points, but I don't think it's too bad, and I think that CPA will still ask a question where it's quite clear, right? Even if they talk about capabilities, it'll still be, to me, reasonably clear about whether they're talking in terms of internal consistency or feasibility. The Joint Strike Fighter, yeah, what a screw up that project is. We still haven't got them, have we? By the time we get them, they will have developed something else that can pop it out of the sky in 5 seconds. All right. De Beers, external consistency. I just did this myself after reading the case, and I thought, yeah, it's reacting to changes in the market. They are reacting to the antitrust, to flood of supply by the Russians, to Western Australian Argyle diamonds, to blood diamond social issues. They are reacting to being squeezed left, right, and centre with a possible substitute of synthetic diamonds on the market. It doesn't have the power it did. The market is going to continue to grow. Well, no, the market's potentially going to be okay in terms of growth, but the profitability inside it they've got new entrants and they're getting squeezed by some other external issues. Internal consistency, I didn't find as much, I wasn't sure in terms of the information where there was enough there to make a true call. So in an exam, I'm sure it'll be clearer and it'll be a shorter case as well. They only really acted as a supplier and a distributor, right? It doesn't necessarily appear they have the capabilities and the marketing to move that way. Saying that, and when you link it to feasibility, they've got a lot of money. They have strong revenues. They recently privatized at a cost of 17.6 billion. So they had that much money to be able to buy the shares, take the company back to private. I would like that much money in my kitty to be able to do that. Right? They control a large portion of the distribution network. Very, very, you know me, and I'll be like, oh, that's pretty cool. They've got distribution channels to market. So you would think they can get the capabilities in. So maybe that tick should make internal consistency a tick, but also in internal consistency, there's not information in the case so much about the corporate strategy and some of those other points to be too concrete on whether it meets or it doesn't in this particular example. Competitive advantage. They need to establish a differentiated strategy. So they need to find something because they're being stuck in a commodity game where they're losing their power. So yeah, by doing this, it ticks the box that they're at least attempting to get that competitive advantage. They're attempting to differentiate and get competitive advantage. All right, good. They already have the marketing. Look, yeah, maybe. How much more they needed is, I don't know the company, the story well enough to what else they might have had to bring in. Cool. Risk. Now, in the past, we'll do the question, but also I've noticed in the past that I've asked students, they've said, yep, we've got risk all down pat, but then they've done very poorly out on the practice exam. So I'm going to run through it fairly quickly. Stop me if things aren't clear. I just noticed that people say, they've said to me in the past, yeah, it's clear, but then I've felt like I've underdone it because the practice exam questions related to it, written answer or MCQ, they didn't do so well, on average. I have no idea what quiz we're up to. Nope. Apologies, hang on. Which of the following is correct about risk analysis? Select one of those four, please. Another 15 seconds. All right, I think there's a few people not too sure, but I just have to finish it up anyway. So we've got a little bit of a split. Cost-benefit analysis, you focus your sensitivity analysis on the benefits more than the costs is the most popular, followed by the bottom one. So good. Not a clear cut, but still good. I have to remind myself why the bottom one. All right. changing their purchasing patterns and is not a feasible risk. Yeah, it's a feasible risk, and I guess Paul Meyer, my point there is it's a short period of time that we've seen such a rapid movement from store retail buying to happy to buy online. Something that it's so easy for us to go, well, yeah, it's always been fun to do that. Most of us had no interest in doing that. Most of us would never have done banking on a phone, even just a few years ago. It's changed very, very rapidly, so people can do that. I can see Greg's point and Ravi's reply there. I'm not going to engage on the banking stuff, although I did find that very amusing. And I heard that he got a fair grilling, and also that they pretty much admitted, yeah, like that. They pretty much had just admitted it. So that's interesting. But we're in E&G territory. All right. So you've got these steps. Tell me if they're not clear. I'm not going to hang on them. You identify your risks. You determine causes. You think about what the consequences are if that risk was to occur. You give it a rating, and I think it is very important that you also consider what mitigation actions you can put in place. Because pretty much most risks you identify, you cannot eliminate. You'd love to, you can't. The job of risk analysis, job of risk profiles, job of the risk register, and the top line that goes to the board is the board comfortable? Are the ratings within their tolerance? So you have mitigation actions to take something down from a extreme, very likely, crazy level risk to, yes, we're a major hazards facility and we have got oil tankers, and yes, something could go wrong. We cannot eliminate this. But we're not running a business where we feel any day of the week, this week, we're going to have an explosion. All right? Now, it can be done different ways. Financial stakeholder and employee, they're just categories. And within this, all we're trying to say is, well, what would the effect be? What would the consequence be? It's a financial risk. It's moderate. I've just picked something. If you're working on one of these, you might have already done this in your job. If you come to a more senior role, you may not work on it, but you'll have to read through this stuff. Trust me, they can be some pretty dry meetings that you sit in when you look after a department, and you have to at least understand how the risk profile is developed. It could be a greater than 15% to operating cash flow, right? Stakeholder one is really important. Yes, we look at this first, but senior shareholders complain and you've got national press coverage. So you're assessing the risk of the release of your remuneration packages. Right? No, I'm not talking about CPA necessarily. We're talking about a whole range of companies, because now we have a two-strike rule. Employees. What happens if a whole bunch of senior managers leave? Right? So this risk in the Trump administration is the likelihood, extremely likely. The consequence rating must be minor. It must be minor, because they are hiring and firing at a rate that we've never seen before. IT, it's one that wasn't there 10 years ago, and it's on every single one now. All right, makes sense. You can do a heat map over it, and then you can also consider, all right, how do I actually get a rating? My very highs down to my lows. How would you do it for De Beers? We don't know. I can just give you an approximation, an idea how something might be filled out. Overall, a risk of consumer spending reduces, demand drops significantly. Why? A GFC. Consequence could be quite significant. Likelihood, unlikely. It did happen. But if we're in 2005, and I'd put in possible, people would have laughed at me. God, you've got to be kidding. So it's easy to say now because it happened, but probably would have been unlikely. When's the next GFC coming? How would you rate that now? Synthetic diamonds continue to grow and consumers switch. Yeah, absolute risk. Why? They don't see the value in the mined diamond anymore. Consequence? Yeah, could really hit the bottom line. All right? Could potentially be likely. Unable to build the capabilities we need to do this strategic implementation. All right? So two's about we've chosen the wrong option. It's the synthetic keeps coming and biting at us. Three's about we've chosen the option, but we haven't necessarily got it right in terms of implementation. We haven't got the capability. So that's how you might go about picking some risks. Now, the question you could get if it was a written answer, it could be to discuss two types of risks. Don't forget in the study guide, I can talk about things like strategic risk as well. It could be around that. It could be around just give us two types of risks and describe them in a risk assessment format or whatever. So I had a question on a past exam paper. The problem was people didn't do the steps. They just said things like, oh, the risk is that they'll lose a lot of revenue because of substitutes. And you're like, no, that doesn't get you the marks because the CPA examiner's sheet does not have that. They have the specific. Did they identify what the risk was, what the cause was, what the potential consequence was? Did they give it a rating? You're not producing those graphs in the exam, but the examination marking grid says, have they got these things there? If they have, that's equal to whatever number of points. Did they provide two key case points backing these up? Yes, no. So if you don't go through that structured steps in your answer, you won't get the marks. Strategic options are strategic themes. The theme is the parent, like programs and projects. The strategic option is the child. There's a short video on that, right? How do you pull it all together? And this is an interesting one too. It's sort of right at the end of the module. Well, you've got a vision. Will it deliver the outcome that enables the organisation to get to this future state? Is there any misalignment between what this company stands for, what its purpose is, and what the strategic option is about? Can you link it specifically to BSC measures here? Maybe or maybe not. What measures, though? You could get the question of, well, you've got these goals, you've got this vision. What measures should be in place in terms of monitoring implementation that's going to help us know that we got there, right? Strategic options can be linked to themes that explain the strategic overview as well. And on that one, don't get too caught up. People got upset, I think, a few semesters ago in the CPA exam question that says use Rummeltz to evaluate the strategic option. Someone told me they wrote, this cannot be done. Rummeltz is only for strategic themes. All right, no, don't write that. Just accept that they haven't lined it up word for word in the study guide. The study guide says Rummeltz is about evaluating strategic themes. It makes no difference. Theme or option, an option can be quite big, right? You can evaluate. It's fine to say you can evaluate strategic options with Rummeltz. It's just an evaluation criteria. I'm kind of at the end. I can keep going. And look, in the pre-recording, I went a little bit further because you're not doing the Q&A backwards and forwards. But also, I'm happy to finish up here and say Module 5 done. And we've still got really 3 weeks to go through 6 and 7, right? In the pre-recording, which I'm assuming most of you haven't watched because you've come to the live one, we start a little bit into 6 and we think a bit about results. And the main thing around implementation is frameworks, again, McKinsey 7S, a little bit about program management versus project, change frameworks, and then resistance. And that's so important in implementing anything. What's the resistance going to be? Where might it come from? Can Cotter's 8 steps help us deal with that type of resistance, get this change to work? How we monitor it, but also how does this link into leadership, linking into Module 7 as well? Because this is where so many of these projects fail, don't they? This is where they go wrong. Perhaps we can finish on a quiz. Happy to finish off now? Yeah, that's all right. Look, it's there. You can watch the last, whatever it is, 5 or 10 minutes of the pre-recording. I don't know if it's been taken down or maybe replaced with this, in which case, don't worry, we can do it next week. Let's finish with a quiz. Do it on the screen. A, B, C, or D. Which of the following is not one of Shine's people and cultural issues that are relevant to the strategy implementation process? Cool. And we're not going to take the pre-recorded ones down. We're just going to add this live one. So let's not do it. We're going to go to Q&A now. I'll try and answer Glenn's question. We're going to finish up the recording. And if you want, you can have a look at the pre-recorded. If you want to watch, you're more interested in watching the live one recorded again, or you just want those extra 10 minutes where I start talking about cotters, which I'll go through again next week anyway, and look at the pre-recorded one. So thank you very much for coming tonight. We got through some good material. We've knocked off 5. We're on track. Well done for doing your mid-semester test. Really well done on that, because I think it's a great thing to do, an opportunity not to be missed. Next week, yeah, Module 6 implementation. There'll be another bit of pre-webinar work. It won't be too taxing. Getting yourself ready to be able to sit practice exam 1, which will open at the end of week 8. You don't have to sit it on the first day, and most people won't, but it will be open then. That's plenty of time. It's early enough. It depends when your exam is as well, but don't leave it also too late and then get too squeezed to not look at your feedback, because suddenly you're going to have 80 marks that you're looking at, right? Not 15 MCQs. So thanks again. Sorry that that Monday didn't work out, and I'll be back in 1 tick, and we'll do any Q&A that you wish to do for another 5 or 10 minutes. All right. Bye-bye for now.